Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live question and answer session for applications for Code the Dream. My name is Mary Alice Moore. I am the class coordinator with Code the Dream, so I help with student onboarding, organizing when classes start and stop, and kind of doing all of that sort of clerical registrar behind the scenes stuff. Joining me today is Reed Russum. He's got his camera off right now, but Reed is on the call with us in case you have some questions. He's our programs associate. He works with our volunteers and mentors. Reed, did you want to introduce yourself vocally?
Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm Reed. It's great to be on the call with all of you. I'm so excited that you're applying for Code the Dreams classes and ready to help you guys out as you're going through this process.
Awesome. Thanks, Reed. Okay, without any further ado, I will go ahead and jump into our presentation. As a reminder, if you have questions, you're welcome to pop those up in the chat. At the end of the short presentation, then we'll also have a question and answer session where you can just unmute and ask your questions. So without further ado, let's get rolling. As a reminder, this is the live question and answer session for the July 18th to August 14th application period for classes that will be starting September and October of this year. So the first thing we like to do is give you a little information about our organization, who we are and what we do. So Code the Dream is a nonprofit organization based out of North Carolina in the United States, specifically the Raleigh-Durham areas where we were founded, but we are kind of spread out all over the United States and the globe. We do have international students in our classes. Our mission statement is to create opportunities that change lives, build technology that benefit our communities, and support diversity that drives a more just and innovative world. So our organization itself is structured in two ways. We have the school side, which is what you're applying for, to be a part of the classes and education aspect of it. And then we also have a development shop side that builds technology. So we create opportunities for our students by having these free classes available to students that are from low income backgrounds, diverse backgrounds. We want to see the kind of applicants that will help diversify the tech industry, which currently is lacking the diversification that it ought to have in order to be building tech that is helpful to all people. And so we support that diversity through our classes, through our programs. As well as on the development shop side, we build technology that help benefit our communities. So we frequently are signing on projects from diverse background entrepreneurs and startups, from nonprofit agencies, government agencies that help support individuals from low income backgrounds and from diverse backgrounds. So as I mentioned, we've got the school side and the lab side. The lab side is our development shop, where students who graduate through our programs, as well as outside applicants that are applying directly into our apprenticeship, can get real world experience through paid apprenticeships to be working on real projects for real clients. And then the school side is the free intensive classes in web development. All right, so let's talk about the process of getting into the program. So we are currently having applications open. You can visit codethedream.org/apply-now to be able to access the application. Applications are open until August 14th, and we are accepting applications for all 4 classes that we offer. We offer an intro level class as well as 3 advanced classes, one that's full stack, one that's front end, one that's back end, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a bit. After the application period closes on August 14th, we then send out pre-work assignment instructions on August 15th, and I'll also be going into the pre-work assignment more in depth in a moment. But the pre-work assignment is kind of like a placement exam, I guess the best way to describe it. It's a pre-work assignment that you'll work through. We have outlines as far as what we expect you to be able to accomplish and build. You have 2 weeks to complete the pre-work assignment, and it's twofold for its purpose. It gives you a chance to be able to see what it's like as far as the workload and what you'll be learning and working with material-wise in each week of your class. In sort of this abbreviated 2-week period, you get an idea of what 1 week's worth of class is like. And then it also gives us an idea of people who are capable of working with our class format. We have a flipped classroom model, so students predominantly cover their lesson materials on their own, and then they come to mentor sessions to be able to get questions about those lesson materials answered. So rather than attending a set Monday, Wednesday, Friday class where you're being lectured at, and then you go home, review that information, and do an assignment, then it's actually all online. You look through the lesson materials, you bring your questions to your mentor sessions, which have flexible hours throughout the week, and you can attend whenever those sessions work for your schedule. to be able to answer your questions, get help on your assignments if you're stuck on an area, that kind of thing. So it's sort of a trial run or a test drive of what our classes are like. And then it gets us an opportunity to be able to see if that format works well for you, if you're likely going to be able to succeed in the class based on how our structure is. So once pre-work assignments are done, we have the review period. We let you know if you've been accepted into the class and what class you've been accepted into. For intro students, your class progress usually is you take the 16-week intro class, you have a little bit of a break, and then you take the 17-week advanced class. And then there's an 8-week practicum at the end of advanced classes where you get an opportunity to work in a group setting and learn what it's like to be on a team of developers. For the advanced applicants, for students who are coming in directly at the advanced level because you've already covered and are comfortable with all of the intro content that you need to be able to be successful in the advanced classes, then you'll have the advanced class, which is a 17-week period, and then about a week and a half break, and then you do the 8-week practicum, which is that group experience where you get to kind of see what it's like to be a team developer. Once you complete an advanced class and or the practicum that follows it immediately, then you can either apply for the apprenticeship program with our development shop side, the lab side that I talked about earlier, or you can just go ahead and start applying for web developer jobs. We are currently working on developing some partnerships with tech companies to be able to help filter graduates from our program or graduates from our apprenticeship program into entry-level positions with them, but those are still being built and being arranged with companies. So we don't have a direct into a job pathway for students who complete the advanced and or practicum sections of the classes. The apprenticeship is a year-long commitment, full-time, where you are paid a monthly stipend and you work with our lab side on those real-world projects to be able to get a better understanding of workflow and process, get more experience with the tech stack that you've learned about, learn some cool extra tools kind of outside of the basics, that sort of thing. And then at the end of your apprenticeship with us, then you should be ready to be able to jump into either like a junior developer job or an entry-level job, depending on where your skill set lies at the end of your apprenticeship. All right, so that kind of covers the path. Let's talk about class information now. The 4 classes that we have the application open for right now are Dorado, Baboon, Bald Eagle, and Bass. We just use naming conventions to help differentiate one class type from another. So intro to programming classes are usually star or constellation related. Node classes are mammals. React classes are birds, and Ruby on Rails classes are usually fish. So as you can see on our chart here, the Dorado class is the intro class. The other 3 that are highlighted in yellow are our advanced classes. And we've got the class type listed there. The start date for that intro to programming class is going to be September 21st, and it'll run through January 31st of 2023. For our advanced classes, all of them will be starting on October 12th. And the individual portion of the class, the first 17 weeks where you're just working on your own code and getting familiar with the lesson materials, is going to go until February 28th, 2023. And then your practicum, that group work project that I was talking about, will go from March 8th, I believe is the start date, through May 9th will be the end of your practicum portion of those advanced classes. And then finally at the bottom there, you can see what stack or topic you're learning. So for the intro to programming class, it's web development basics. So it's going to be JavaScript fundamentals and basics, HTML, CSS. We'll talk about web browsers, how the internet works, and we'll give you an introduction into what an API is, which is how data is pulled from a data source and then rendered on a web page or an application for a user to see and interact with. And then for our Node.js Express class, it is full stack. So you'll learn both how to be able to create those data structures as well as how to implement them in a way that a user can see and interact with that data. The React class is front end. So it's what a client or a user sees and touches as far as a website or a web application. And then the Ruby on Rails is back end class. So that's building your data structures as far as, you know, like an inventory of products for a business that sells products, or a log of users and their blog posts for a chat app or things like that, to give you an idea of what those classes are like. Or as a reminder, if there are any questions, you can feel free to post them in the chat. So feel free to post them in there if you have anything come to mind as I'm going through this bulk of information. All right, general class requirements. Everybody is always curious as far as like, well, what do I need to know coming into this class? Do I need any prior knowledge or do I need any particular software or equipment? So for previous knowledge for the Intro to Programming class, it is helpful to have exposure to basic programming concepts. So like how the internet works or how a page is built. You don't necessarily have to know the line by line details of code, but having an idea or a general understanding is good. It's also helpful to have a familiarity with computer basics. So you want to know how to store files on your computer. You want to know how, Microsoft document or sorry, Microsoft Word accesses a file and renders that file. So sort of some programming concepts along those lines. But there aren't any hard and fast requirements. So if you've never touched code, if you've never built code, if you don't really have a good solid understanding or haven't been exposed to this information, you can start from the ground up in our Intro to Programming class and do well and succeed to be able to get the first foundations built of what you need to become a web developer. For our advanced classes, which are the Node Express class, React class, and Ruby on Rails class, we kind of group them all in together and call them our advanced classes. Previous experience is preferred. For the Node and React classes, it's helpful to have a good solid understanding of your JavaScript basics. You don't need to know anything fancy, but knowing, how to create variables, how to write functions, how to use methods, how to create and access object data, that kind of a thing is helpful, as well as some familiarity with GitHub. You don't have to be a master of how to use GitHub, but familiarity with it is good, as well as a concept of how APIs work and or have experience with either building an API that is used or using an API that's built. So hopefully that helps give an idea as far as previous knowledge to help you kind of decide what class you might be appropriate for applying for. As far as tools go for requirements, for the Intro to Programming class, just having a simple basic computer, preferably have a computer instead of a hybrid tablet like Chromebook is ideal, just because of the kind of memory usage, processing speed that you need to be able to do some of these things, and definitely reliable internet. You can get away with doing everything browser-based for the Intro to Programming class, but ideally it's better if you have a simple basic computer. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be new. For the advanced classes, the Node Express, React, and Ruby on Rails classes, a reliable computer with sufficient memory is important to be able to get specifications on what you might need as far as computer and specifications of that machine. For those various classes, you'll want to go to codethedream.org/classes and then scroll down to the bottom where we have our frequently asked questions section and look at the what kind of computer and software do I need section. And that'll let you know like how much memory space you should have, what your processing speed should be like, versions of operating systems, that kind of a thing. And of course, reliable internet for that one as well, since these are all online classes. It's fine if you don't have reliable internet yourself at your home location, as long as you have a resource you can go to, like a local coffee shop or a library that gives you the access that you need is important. Other sort of class requirements that don't fall into a tools or a knowledge category, it's helpful for any applicant to have commitment to be able to work through challenging lessons, especially if you don't have exposure to this content before you start learning it, then they will be an uphill battle, but it's something that you can definitely do and achieve. We put in as many supplemental resources as we can. We have our mentor sessions so that way you can meet live synchronously with a developer so that they can help give you a better understanding of material that confuses you or areas where you're stuck. So being committed to working through your lessons is really important. And then having time. Our classes average about 15 to 20 hours a week for how much time you need to commit to be able to put into covering your lesson materials, meeting with mentors when you need assistance, and working on your coding assignments that we have built into the classes. Okay, so then let's talk next steps. After you've filled out your application, what's going to happen then? The application period, as a reminder, is open until August 14th. That's going to be Sunday, August 14th. The very first thing you want to do, you can either go ahead and do it now or make a note to yourself to do this today, is add classes@codethedream.org to your contacts list in your email that you've provided us with. We've had trouble in the past of when we send out next step information or acceptance letters, it goes into spam or trash folders because because we send to all of the students who are accepted all at once, so they all get the same message together at the same time. So be sure to add classes@codethedream.org to your contacts list in your email. That will help keep it from getting into your spam or trash folders. If we hit deadline dates of when you're expecting things, like August 15th, when we're going to send out pre-work instructions, or September 7th or September 28th, when we're going to be sending out those acceptance or not accepted notifications, then check your email, check those trash and spam folders, just in case your filters wound up kicking it over there in the first place. So be sure to check those items on those days. So as I was mentioning about dates, August 15th, we will send out a pre-work instructions email. Read the instructions carefully. Intro applicants, we do have a preview video from the last preview pre-work session we had for our last round of applications at the very top of your instruction page. It is a lengthy video, it's about an hour, but watch it because it will help give you a very detailed and visible view of the step-by-step process of what you want to do and what you should expect through that pre-work process. Anybody that has any questions about the pre-work information, you can always email us at classes@codethedream.org. And that way we can get back to you with questions while you're working on things to help you through that process. August 28th is the deadline. So whatever class you're applying for, complete your pre-work for either intro or advanced. I'll talk a little bit more about the difference between those two in a moment, but everybody is required to turn in their pre-work assignment by August 28th. And then for class notifications, as a reminder, check your email on September 7th if you've applied to the intro class, and you'll have received an email whether or not you got accepted. We will let you know either way, so that way you know what you can be doing if you didn't get accepted that will help continue your learning, or information about your class starting if you did get accepted. For advanced applicants, you'll receive that notification on September 28th or earlier. If we've reviewed your pre-work and we feel like you're not quite ready for advanced classes, but intro would be a good fit for you, then we'll notify you between the 7th and the 14th of September to be able to let you know you didn't make it to advanced, but we are offering you a spot in the intro class. All right, so let's talk about this pre-work information that you've just been hearing me talk about. August 15th is when those instructions email out. The intro applicants, you have a tutorial that you'll follow that's a very similar format to what you work through in class, as far as like some written instructions, a little, talk through, walk through to kind of show you what you need to be building code-wise and help you understand the concepts. And then you just build a very simple JavaScript drawing or animation. I know it sounds intimidating to be asked to be writing something in JavaScript this early in the game when you haven't even been in a class, but the tutorial really gives you everything that you need to know. And the tutorial will take the bulk of your times, and it's broken into several parts. So just take your time with it. The intro video also reinforces this information that it's broken into several parts. Plan an hour here or 2 hours here each day to be able to work through that tutorial to give yourself enough time at the end to build what you want to build code-wise. You do not need to know any HTML or CSS. All of your pre-work is just in JavaScript, and everything that you see in the tutorial will be what you need in order to be able to build something in JavaScript for that pre-work assignment. For the advanced applicants, your pre-work assignment is a simple static website. It can be single or multi-page, and it should have some kind of navigation, whether your navigation just re-renders the content on your page or it takes you to a separate HTML file, whatever you decide is appropriate. You should include some styling features, so we should see a CSS file in there that gives some kind of background color or something, so that way we can tell that you're comfortable with styling concepts and syntax. And then the bulk of the content of your site is going to be an open source API where you'll be displaying data to a user. It's a Star Wars API, so it has a database of all of the film names and the character names and planets and starships and all kinds of things like that. And so we ask that you take at least 2 of those data categories and render them on your site. So a page about characters and a page about planets, or whatever interests you is perfectly fine. Okay, so that's sort of a general overview of your pre-work information. A lot of applicants ask, which pre-work do I do, especially if they're applying for multiple classes or they're not really clear as far as what class they want to apply for. So if you're applying for any or all classes and you know what an API is, I would recommend attempting the advanced pre-work first. If when you're looking over those instructions, you feel like it's more than you can do, or you're hitting things that you're like, I don't know what they're talking about here, then stop working on the advanced pre-work. abandon that and focus just on the intro pre-work. You will have links if you're applying for intro and advanced classes, you will have links to both. And you will have access to be able to jump back to the intro if you've applied only for advanced and discover that it's maybe more than you can tackle right now. If you complete the intro pre-work, if you've given up on your advanced pre-work assignment and you do the intro pre-work and submit the intro pre-work assignment, then you'll be considered for the intro class. If you're applying for intro only and you're not even worried about advanced classes because you're just getting your feet wet and you want to pursue the intro class, just do the intro pre-work and you'll only be sent the link for the intro pre-work if you're only applying for the intro class. If you're applying for one or more advanced classes, do the advanced pre-work. Similar kind of rules as my first bullet point on the slide. If you're attempting the advanced pre-work, you've applied for the advanced classes and you're like, this is more than I can handle, this is more than I'm aware of, then you can always pivot and do the intro pre-work instead, and you'll be considered for a spot in the intro class. The biggest note and takeaway I want you all to take from the pre-work information section of my spiel is that if you are an applicant that does not submit pre-work by August 28th, you will not be considered for the classes. We do need to see your pre-work assignment in order to consider you for the classes. So you will automatically be not accepted if you do not submit a pre-work assignment by the 28th of August. I think that covers all of our pre-work information. Again, if you have questions, pop them up in the chat. Let's talk about class information real quick. All of the intro applicants will be notified of the results of their application accepted or not on September 7th. All advanced applicants will be notified on September 28th or earlier if your pre-work indicates that you're better suited for the intro class first before taking an advanced class. Once you're accepted into a class, all of the classes have a student orientation to help get you familiar with the process so that you know where to find your class tools and understand sort of what the class flow is like and all of that information. Usually it's at 7 p.m. Eastern, the week prior to your class start date. So for intro students, it'll be Wednesday, September 14th, and for advanced classes, it'll be Wednesday, October 5th. During your class, you're going to work through lessons and assignments each week. You'll attend live mentor sessions or arrange one-on-one mentor sessions whenever you need a better understanding of class curriculum or if you have questions that you need answered. All right, so final section, and then we'll open it up for any kind of live questions you might have out there. The frequently asked questions I get from most applicants is how many people get in. For the intro class, we hope to accept 60 students. For the advanced classes, we hope to accept 30 students for each of the advanced classes. Some of our advanced class seats are reserved for graduates of our intro class. So it'd probably be closer to like 10 or 15 students that are new applicants directly into the advanced classes that we would be able to accept into each advanced class. But again, it varies depending on how many graduates we have out of recent intro classes. What happens after class? If you're taking intro first, then you are invited to take an advanced class if you've completed intro satisfactorily. If you are in an advanced class, then you'll take the practicum, which is that group section, that 8-week group period at the end of your advanced class, or the apprenticeship. You can apply for the apprenticeship if you're interested and if it's applicable. We can currently only offer the apprenticeship to people who are physically on United States property or United States territory property. If you are international, we cannot offer you a spot in the apprenticeship program. It does not matter what your citizenship status is. You just have to be physically living in the United States or on US territory to be an apprentice. Or you can pursue employment at the end of the advanced class, plus or minus the practicum. You might be able to take another class. It's not necessarily appropriate for all students. Usually people who take the Node class then also want to go on and take React because those two frameworks work so seamlessly together, especially if you want to be knowledgeable in sort of like full stack JavaScript. Or if you've taken React and you want to then see how Node works to be able to complement your React app with Node, then that can be appropriate. It's not usually common or terribly successful for folks to jump from Ruby on Rails to React or React to Ruby on Rails or Node to Ruby or vice versa. And then we also usually get asked, what do we look for in applicants? The drive to become a developer is the biggest thing. So these classes aren't really intended for educating somebody who wants to have development as a side hustle. If they want to have it as a hobby or like be a freelance contractor sort of on the side of whatever your primary job is. It's not really intended for people who are curious about what web development is and they're not quite sure if that's something that they want to pursue as their career path yet. It's really the first step of becoming a developer. And most of our students within a year or two of starting either the intro or the advanced classes are in high-paying developer jobs by the end of it. So it's really this kind of first step into it, more so than let me see what it's all about. The other big question I get is, what's the cost? Zero, zip, nothing, nada. We have grants and our development shop that allow us to offer these classes completely free to students. You never have to sign a contract saying you're going to pay us back. You don't have any monthly payments that you have to make to us, anything like that. We do ask, but don't require, that once you graduate and you land that developer job, to either donate back your time as a mentor or volunteer if you're able to do that, or if your income is now wonderfully adequate to be able to meet your needs and have some extra left over. If you want to donate any portion of that back to help others follow in your footsteps, it's encouraged and welcomed. But there are no requirements of any kind of financial payment in place at all. The last and most common question I get is, which classes should I apply for? And so we've created a couple of pages on our site to be able to help with that. Check out codethedream.org/classes-checklist, and that'll help give you an idea of what students who enter into these classes usually know and are prepared with coming into them. You can also take a look at the frequently asked questions section of the codethedream.org classes page. It has a whole bunch of drop downs that you can see what the question is, click the little button, it'll drop down and share the information of more details that answer that question. All right, that covers my spiel. It went a little bit longer than I intended, sorry about that. But feel free to unmute, ask your questions, post them in the chat, whatever you would like to do. And we are here. If you have to leave us at this point, feel free to email any questions you think of outside of this Q&A session to classes@codethedream.org so we can answer questions for you. But go ahead. Lilisaga, did you have some questions? I see you're unmuted.
Hello. Thank you, Mary, for giving me this chance, and all my colleagues that I'm seeing your names on the screen. I would like to ask you if the pre-work to finish, is that enough, the 2 weeks?
Yes, yeah. So you'll receive the instructions on the 15th, and then you need to turn everything in by the 28th. So you have that 2-week period to work on it. Check your email on the 15th and go ahead and start looking over the instructions on that day too, to give yourself plenty of time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions out there? I know I try to cover all my bases, but I'm sure you must have at least a question or two that has come to mind during a presentation that I haven't covered. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and stop recording just in case you're shy or don't want to ask your question on the recording. That's perfectly fine, but I will stick around so that way anybody that might have questions can get them answered. Thank you all so much for joining us today, and I'm stopping the recording now. Thanks, everyone.